Hello everyone, my name is Asmita, your IELTS mentor here at Vedantu, and today we are going to check some speaking responses like an examiner. Now if you're new to the channel, then go to the older video where I have explained the 4 criteria that examiners use to actually assess student responses. Once you are familiar with the 4 criteria and how they need to be applied to every response, then you can come back to this video and actually become an examiner, wear the examiner's hat, so that gives you a better idea of what kind of responses you need to produce to get the highest possible band. Before we get started, if you haven't, I urge you to fill out the counseling form. I've told you multiple times that this kind of service is very rarely good in this country, and a good service is always really expensive because this is a very time-taking, taxing, difficult process, and to have an expert counselor give you so much of their personal attention and time for free is very rare to find. So make use of this opportunity. Fill out the form, it's in the description. Make sure you're sitting with your parents to do this so that they can give you a fair idea of what your budget looks like. Since you are going abroad for your undergraduate degree, you're not financially independent yet, so you need your parents' support and guidance every step of the way. If you're really serious about studying abroad, please do not miss out on this opportunity. I don't know how long it's going to be there for, so quickly, pronto, get to it. All right, let's get started. Now, the agenda is extremely simple. All you have to do is read the response, pause the video, read the response, and tell me what band you think the video is going to get. And the way I'm going to check if you are doing this simultaneously is you are going to leave response 1, band XYZ in the comments, and I'm going to see who was the closest for each response. Obviously, don't try to cheat here because that doesn't benefit anybody, and it's actually going to really cost you because you're going to get a wow here from strangers on the internet, but you're going to do poorly in the IELTS. So make sure you're honest in your band. You can also provide a small, simple reason as to why this band was given. Obviously, your reasoning needs to be detailed and sound. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you the detailed reason why this response deserves a particular band. And we're not going to stick to one band. We'll give it a range. Because really, in the IELTS speaking test, in reality, you are not going to get a band based on every answer. So it's not like, okay, this response got a band 9, this response got a band 7, this response, and then average out the band. That's not how it works. What's going to happen is the examiner is going to assess you overall and see how you've done. So if you fumble and maybe mess up one response, but you more than make up for it in the rest of your responses, then the examiner is going to be okay with that and it's going to give you a good band. So we will give a range, and it could be something like this is between 5 and 6 or 5.5 to 6 if you want to be more precise. That's entirely up to you. So you have to give a fair, good assessment based on the different criteria. Once you've done that, play the video again and listen to what band I've given this response and the reason why I've given it the band that I decided to. All right. So here we go. I'm going to get out of the frame, pause the video. And now let's read the response once again. Why do some people enjoy doing dangerous sports? Interesting question, often asked in the IELTS, and you can have varying types of responses. It could be about psychology, it could be about, jolting yourself out of a boring routine. So you can give any kind of justification for this. Generally, what people do is give a psychological justification, which is fair, which is fine. And here, this kind of a response gives you the opportunity to really showcase your topic-specific vocabulary, which I've told you multiple times is going to be assessed with more attention in the 2025 IELTS, all right? So let's look at the response here. I think people who enjoy dangerous sports are often seeking an adrenaline rush. So here, off the bat, we have a very good topic-specific vocabulary, and adrenaline rush is often talked about. You must be aware of it and being able to use this word and also pronounce it accurately is important. So make sure that you know how to say it before you decide to say it. Or a sense of achievement, even that's a good phrase to use together. It's commonly used. Activities like skydiving or rock climbing. So you've given 2 examples here. All right, and again, these examples also count towards topic-specific vocabulary because knowing the names of these adventure sports again showcases that you have the words for these kind of things. Push people out of their comfort zone. Push somebody out of their comfort zone. Again, an idiom, a phrase that is commonly used by native speakers. And give them a feeling of control over fear. Feeling of control over fear. Again, nicely put, succinctly explains what's going on in somebody's head. For some time, it's also about breaking routine. For some. I don't know why I said time there. It's also about breaking routine and living life more intensely. So, breaking routine, living life more intensely. Again, two reasons given. The last reason is, again, a different perspective that's being provided. Like I told you, you have to be very clear in your response and your stance, but always acknowledging a different perspective enhances your response. So what are the boxes that this particular response is checking in terms of vocabulary? That is lexical resource. It's done a great job, fabulous job over there. Grammatical range and accuracy. If we look at that criteria, then it's good. I mean, it's not, there's nothing that's standing out, but that's the thing. When you're talking naturally, stuff shouldn't stand out. There should be just a good mix of complex and simple sentences that best explains what you're trying to do. Here, in fact, a lot of times if something stands out, it usually stands out because it's awkward sounding or weird. So that can become an issue. So here it's actually good that nothing is striking us differently. Activities like skydiving or rock climbing, again, this kind of sentence to cite examples is a good sentence structure. So overall, great job in grammatical range and accuracy as well. Then we have our fluency. Now here, bear in mind that pronunciation is something we cannot assess, right? For those of you who have done this in the past with me, you know this. So that is one criteria. We are unable to assess because this is a written response and obviously pronunciation requires the stuff to be said. And here, because I am saying it, but this is not my response, so you cannot judge me on the basis of my pronunciation. So that's something we're unable to do. So let's move on to fluency and coherence. Again, fluency is also something we are unable to assess, but coherence we can. And here, this is a very coherent answer. It starts out with explaining the bigger picture. It narrows down to examples and then it gives us another perspective. So great job here. So for me, this answer definitely is in the range of a band 8 to 9. It's a good solid response. The reason why it could go towards an 8 is because maybe it's not long enough. But again, that depends on how the other responses are phrased. So you can never judge a candidate based on one isolated response. It's the overall picture, right? So I would say a strong 8 to 9 answer over here. Let's look at the other one. I'm going to move out of the frame. Pause. Give your band score. Those of you who didn't pause, why are you cheating? Come on, give your band score. And let's get to it. Do you think schools should focus more on creativity or academic subjects? Again, very commonly argued point, very widely discussed, especially in our country as well, because, you know, children are usually not allowed to pursue creative fields by schools. It's not encouraged in schools. It's not encouraged by parents. So something you have probably thought about at many points in your life. A lot of our movies have also explored this theme. Now, you have a lot of material that you can say when it comes to this. It just simply comes down to, do you have the language skills to be able to verbalize these things, right? So here, let's look at the response. I believe schools should strike a balance between the two. Academic subjects are essential for building a foundation, but creativity fosters innovation and problem solving. So again, stuff like strike a balance, building a foundation, fosters innovation and problem solving. Using the word fosters here has really upped the vocab game. If schools only emphasize academics, students might miss out on discovering their passions or developing soft skills like imagination and adaptability. Emphasize passions, soft skills, imagination, adaptability, right? So overall, yes, a balanced, good response. It again checks the boxes of good vocabulary, good grammatical range and accuracy. There are no mistakes. Now, the first thing we need to consider, especially in terms of grammatical range and accuracy, is the accuracy part. Are there grammatical errors? So here, even in the previous response and then this response as well, there weren't any glaring grammatical errors. In fact, there weren't any at all. Subjectively, yes, you can say, okay, maybe you can word it this way, it'll sound better, or frame the sentence like this, it'll sound better, but those are subjective opinions. Objectively, in terms of correct, incorrect, we don't see any grammatical mistakes. So the responses are good on that front. Here, the way the answer is started, again, it works. You're supposed to give your opinion. The question says, do you think? And starting with I believe. That's fine. Should strike a balance. Again, you've said your stance right off the bat. And then you are supporting that stance by giving relevant information and justifications. Like, the academics is important for so-and-so reasons and creativity is important for so-and-so reasons, right? And the vocabulary here really enhances that explanation because fostering innovation, problem solving, building a foundation, a lot of phrases are being used, right? A lot of collocations are being used that show that this person understands and uses English on a regular basis. So solid answer here. Again, the only issue here might be that it's a bit too short, and because of that, I'm going to put it in a 7.5 to 8.5 range, only because it could have been a bit longer. Now here again, this was short as well, but here there was scope for speaking more. Here, what more can you say? You're not a psychologist, you're not a doctor, psychiatrist. You don't really know why people do this. But here, this is something that applies more directly to your life or to everybody's life in general, and you don't have to be an expert to have an opinion on this. So I feel this one could had a scope for being a lot longer. But again, it was a solid response. Because we are judging these in isolation, that's the only reason I've gone for a 7.5 to 8.5. But I think it still lies in the higher zone. It will be in the 8 to 8.5 zone. All right. Next one. Pause. Assess. Come on. All right. Why do some people prefer living in cities rather than in rural areas? This question again asked. The same question is asked in multiple ways. City life versus village life, right? Urban versus rural, synonyms can be used. Also something that's a very common point of discussion in today's modern world. A lot of people on social media keep talking about this. You might have a lot of opinions on this. So there's something that's very close to us. It's not a far-fetched thing that we haven't thought about. You can never start this response with, I've never really thought about that, because all of us have thought about that at some point. And the thing with Indians is a lot of us come from rural areas. A lot of us come from villages and move to cities for better opportunities. So we have explored this entire concept. So we have a lot to say about this. Now let's look at the response. Because city is more good. There is more things to do and you can get job. In village it is boring and not much happening. I think city is better for young peoples. Now the first glaring issue here is both in terms of grammar and vocab. The first glaring issue is mistakes, right? Lots and lots of mistakes. So clearly from the response we can tell that the candidate does not know how to speak English properly. Second thing is too short. So they didn't build on any of their ideas, and again the reason why they could not build on any of their ideas is because they don't have the proper English speaking skills to be able to do so. Grammar and vocab are the two things that you need to form basic sentences and express basic ideas, and because you can see that even this very simple, you can say that it's such a simple response, it's in fact too simple, and even there is glaring lack of vocabulary and bad grammar. Now, I don't mean this in a judgmental way that this person is a horrible person because they can't speak English. I'm talking about from a proficiency in English point of view, that it is bad grammar and it is bad vocabulary. And so here they need to work a lot more on understanding and building English language skills. Probably they are very new to the language, they've just started studying it, and this sounds like a very beginner level type of a response. Okay, so this is going to be a problem in terms of proficiency, and that's why obviously this answer is going to be in your band 4 to 5 range. Okay, here the reason why 4 to 5 is given in the first place is because a response was attempted. If you don't attempt a response, if you give one word answers, it takes a lot of doing nothing to actually get that 0 to 3 band. Okay, so here they have attempted, they are trying, so that again warrants a band that is at least a 4. Starting answers with because is can be problematic unless you are so fluent that you are just starting your answer as a continuation of the question. In that case, and if you build on it, and if the rest of your response is spectacular, impeccable, and obviously accurate, then starting an answer with because won't be a problem. But for most of us, that won't be the case. So avoid starting your responses with because, make it a full sentence. City is more good, again, more good than what? Grammatically, that sentence is a mess. There is more things. SVC is a problem, right? Can get job, lack of articles. So what are the mistakes that we commonly keep making? It's good to reflect on these things so that we understand that, okay, we have to make sure we're doing this. Again, your degree of comparison adjectives, we randomly say more something without actually giving the second thing that we're comparing it with. So degree of comparison errors, so many SVC errors, we have article errors, right? So lack of article mostly, that's the problem. In village, it is boring and not much happening. Again, there is a lack of subject over here, not much happening. What? I think city is better for young people, should never be people, so that's wrong. Many errors here that most of you can also point out, and it's a good example of what all to look out for, because if you keep an eye out for these commonly made mistakes, if you have a checklist in your head, then you can go back and critically examine your response and make sure that all of this is being taken care of. See, a native speaker will not struggle with these things because they don't have to actively think about it. The reason why they don't have to actively think about it is because they've done a lot of listening, which you have not. I might not know what is a kriya or what is a... See, I don't even know the names of the different parts of speech in Hindi. The reason why I know these names in English is because I teach English. If I didn't teach English, I wouldn't know the names of... You would ask me what an adverbial phrase is, I might not know. You can ask somebody who speaks absolutely correct English, but they sometimes might not know that a particular word is a preposition or a particular word is an adverb. And that's completely fine. Attaching labels to things is not important. Knowing how to use them accurately is important when it comes to communication, right? As a technical person, somebody who has to teach grammar, I need to know the names of these different things. You as a speaker don't have to know the names of these different things. When I speak in Hindi, मैं एक सही सेंटेंस को भी देखो, मैं उर्दू में याद आ रहा है क्या बोलते हैं, हिंदी में I can't remember what it is called, but मैं सही जुमला बना लूँगी क्योंकि मुझे आता है, मैं बोलती आ रही हूँ, मुझे आदत है. So I've been listening to this, I've grown up with this. I don't necessarily need to know what my subject is, what my verb is, what my object is. And that's the thing with native English speakers as well. But if I learn a new language, then I will have to learn that this is a noun in that language, this is a verb in that language. Because that is how I'm trying to understand. Ulta seekh rahe hum. The way we pick up our native language is through familiarity, through exposure. You keep listening and you keep learning, and then you just end up understanding, knowing and applying it without trying. But when you're learning a new language, you have to try. And the trying involves fitting that new language in the framework that you already know. So if I have been playing a game ever since I was a baby, I might not know the rules of the game, but I know them. I might not have ever read the rules, but I know them. For a lot of us, cricket is like that. Even if I don't know what different things are called, what kind of bowling this is, what kind of batting this is, what is the name of, I don't know, different parts of the game, I might not know these things technically, but I know how to play because gali mein khelte aaya, that's how we've grown up. Same thing with language. But now if I try to learn a different sport, suddenly I want to learn, I don't know, squash. Now I couldn't think of any other sport, but then I'll have to learn the rules first, right? Same thing with language. You'll have to learn the rules first, and then from there you have to work. So as a non-native speaker of English, it is important for you to have a grammar checklist. For a native speaker, not necessary. They might not even know degree of comparison means what. They might not know, but they will be doing it correctly. You have to know, you have to apply these things, all right? Moving on to the next one. Pause. And here we are. How can governments encourage people to live healthier lifestyles? This is kind of a more difficult question, and it's a difficult question because it's not something people are expected to think about. Village, rural life, you're expected to think about it. The creative versus academic, expected to think about it. Here, not everybody sits around because it's not a part of our lives. Some of us who are really into fitness and nutrition might have thought about this, others not so much. That's what makes it a little difficult, but you can think about it on the spot and come up with some logic. Now, it's all about expressing that logic in English. Let's see how this candidate has done. There are several effective ways governments can promote healthier lifestyles. For example, they can launch awareness campaigns about nutrition and exercise, subsidize healthier food options, or even redesign urban areas to include more parks and pedestrian zones. So here, clearly, let's take a pause and underline all the very good and effective vocabulary words that were used. Several effective ways, promote healthy lifestyles. See here, encourage was used, and a synonym of that was used in the answer. That's a very good trick to keep in mind when you're setting up the general introduction of your response or giving an overview of your response. You have to paraphrase the question in some capacity. When you're paraphrasing the question, it is always a good idea to use a synonym that will make your response sound, it'll just show the examiner without being too obvious that, hey, this person understands words and can use synonyms, shows higher degree of acquisition of language. Here, launch awareness campaigns, nutrition, exercise, such good topic-specific vocabulary, right? Subsidize healthier food options, redesign urban areas to include more parks and pedestrian zones, right? Instead of saying have more space to walk, you have said create more pedestrian zones. Again, that shows that you know these technical topic-specific terms. That's why I keep telling you to make a list of topic-specific vocabulary. Here there are two topics, interplay of two topics. What are those two topics? First is health, second is government initiatives. So when it comes to government initiatives, words like subsidizing, redesigning, awareness campaigns, all of these come under government initiatives. Nutrition, exercise, all of this comes under health. So you are using vocabulary from two different topics, bringing them together into one response. Having a list and continuously revising it is going to be very beneficial for you here. And you have to create that list on your own. If you just print out a PDF, that's not going to be helpful. Creating that list, taking the effort to write will again solidify that in your memory. In addition, regulating. So now here see, for example, in addition, the transition and linking terminology. Now see, transition and linking words are going to be a part of all responses, right? So you have to make sure that you know enough of them to use a variety. If you keep using the same 4 transition words again and again, it's going to get boring and redundant. I've told you many of them. I hope you've noted them down. If not, it's not too late. Go back, note them down again, start using them, start incorporating them, right? Regulating advertising for junk food, especially those targeting children, could make a big difference. Ultimately, a combination of education, policy and infrastructure is needed to create lasting change. So, lexical resource, perfect, 100%, definitely a band 9. Grammatical range and accuracy, again, linking words, no grammatical error, good mix of complex, compound and simple sentences. 9, pronunciation we cannot assess, and coherence, because of the fantastic use of linking words, and structuring the argument in a way that it does not confuse the listener, again a solid band 9. So here you don't even have to give a range of bands to this answer. Length is also perfect. There's no scope of saying, hey, this is too short. Like the other ones were really good responses, but the one thing that, you know, caused a little bit of a problem was that maybe they're too short. So here that's not an issue either. So this is a solid band 9 response, no questions asked, and a great template that you can use to craft your responses, especially for more difficult and thought-provoking questions like this that have a lot of different aspects that you need to consider. Okay. All right, and I guess we have our last one over here, which is, what impact does technology have on how people communicate? I'm going to let you pause. Okay, what impact does technology have on how people communicate? Technology has changed communication a lot. Now we can message or video call anyone easily. This is good because it saves time, but sometimes people use phone too much and don't talk in person, so it has both good and bad sides. Now the first issue, the very first glaring issue that I see here is vocab too simple. In terms of grammar, the sentence structures are all simple sentences. Sentences are too short, so they are ending quickly. And see, the issue with having too many simple sentences, this only. If you have a compound sentence, you add a conjunction, you make it longer. The issue with back-to-back simple sentences is like cut, 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 cut. There's no flow. It's not smooth. It's like you start one thought, it abruptly gets cut. You start the next, it abruptly gets cut. And so that affects the coherence, the cohesion, and the fluency of the response as well. Having complex sentences, having compound sentences makes your response sound more fluent. It flows. You know, it's like if you've sat in a car with somebody who's just learned how to drive and they might not really know how the interplay of clutch and accelerator works, and so they have very jerky movement, right? Car goes forward a little bit, suddenly jerks, then goes forward. There's no control on speed. Whereas you sit with an experienced driver, you can't feel them accelerating because they'll do it so smoothly, right? Suddenly you've gone from 0 to 60 and you don't even realize that the speed has increased, right? If they want to brake, it'll be a smooth brake. Slowly they'll start braking, and by the time you've stopped, there's no body movement, there's no realization. So same thing has to happen with your responses. Using simple sentences back to back is like jerky. Suddenly speed, suddenly brake. Suddenly speed, suddenly brake. And that's you can feel that. As a listener, you feel it. Whereas using complex and compound sentences and simple sentences in the middle gives that flow, that cushioning to your answers. That's why that's important from a grammatical point of view, which is clearly missing over here. I'll read it again and you can hear it. Technology has changed communication a lot. Now we can message or video call anyone easily. This is good because it saves time. But sometimes people use phone too much and don't talk in person. So it has both good and bad sides. Whereas you read this response, there are several effective ways government can promote healthy lifestyles. For example, they can launch awareness campaigns about nutrition and exercise, subsidize healthier food options, or even redesign up. So here you can hear that smoothness, right? So train your ears to listen to stuff like this, and then you will also be able to talk like this. All right, so those are two big glaring issues. There are not many mistakes, but there is one. This is good because it saves time, but people use phone. Should be something like use their phones too much, right? So here there is a grammatical mistake, but there are not many. So we can't say that it's riddled with errors, but it's too simple. See here, it has good and bad sides. Even the argument hasn't been fleshed out properly. So in terms of developing a good argument, even the argument is too simple. It's also short. Argument is not fleshed out, right? There are sparse, minimal, obvious examples, but you haven't really gone into them. Look at the number of examples given here. That itself enhances the answer so much, right? You're giving 3 different things over here that can be done, 3 different things over here that can be done. In the end also, you're giving 3 different things that need to be considered. So using these many examples itself makes the answer a lot richer, which is clearly lacking here, right? The way the sentences are starting now, but there are no linking words. Like but is a very simple linking word, right? You can use it, but only use it to add variety. That shouldn't be the linking word or phrase that you're relying upon. It can be just there to break the monotony a little bit, right? And even the conclusion, good and bad sides, the vocabulary is too simple. So overall, this shouldn't be more than a 5 to 6 band response, right? Okay, so that brings us to the end of all our responses. We've seen a good range starting from 4 going all the way to 9. And now I think you can sort of understand what makes a band 9 response, what makes a band 4 response. And you can be honest with yourselves and figure out where you stand in all of this, right? Are you in the 5 to 6 zone? Are you truly in the 8 zone? And then don't aim for a jump straight away from 5 to 9. That's not going to happen. Your aim has to be a 0.5 increase. You know, I can do 5, I can do 5.5. If I can do 5.5 in a week, then in the next 3 weeks, I can do 6.5. So have achievable goals. You cannot, if you're climbing a ladder, you cannot jump from rung 1 to the 10th rung. It has to be a step-by-step process. So your mistake, and a lot of times why you set your own self up for failure is because you're expecting to watch 1 or 2 YouTube videos that promise to help you, and you think that, okay, even though I'm at a band 5 level, I am delusional enough to think that I can jump to a band 9. That will not happen. You can only proceed step by step. If you don't do it step by step, you can't at all. If you are at this level, your next aim should be to come to this level. Once you have reached this level, then you will go to this level. Once you've reached this level, then you go to this level. Finally, then you can come to this level. So it's going to be a whole process, right? And don't worry, because it's a whole process, I am here to help you out. I am here for you, and all I need you to do is just subscribe to the channel and watch the videos regularly, follow the content regularly, engage with it so that the reach increases, and also follow us on our socials so you don't miss out on updates. I will see you soon. Keep working hard. You can do it, and take very good care of yourselves.